Good morning. Today we're going to talk about the parable of the workers in the vineyard, and it comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 20, verses 1 through 16. And in the story, the owner of a vineyard, so a farm that grows grapes, needed help. So he went to the town square and found people that were willing to work. So he hired them early in the morning. And we're going to use my characters from Chutes and Ladders. Do you guys have Chutes and Ladders? I like it. So the owner of the vineyard hired some workers early in the morning at 6 in the morning, and they are going to work all day, and they're going to get paid a denarius. We don't have that kind of money nowadays, so I grabbed something. So they're going to get paid a coin, and they agreed to it. So they're working, and 3 hours later, the owner of the vineyard goes back to the town square and found more people that wanted to work. And he said he would pay them a fair wage. What do you think he did a couple of hours later? He went back to the town square and found more people to work. And he said he'd pay them a fair wage. And then, can you think about what might happen next? With 1 hour left to work, he went back to the town square and he found some people to work. And he actually asked them, why haven't you been working all day? And no one had chosen for them to work. So he hired them and brought them in and let them work for the last hour. And he said he'd pay them a fair wage. End of the day comes and they would get paid every day. And you know what the owner said to do? Pay the people that had worked for the shortest amount of time first. So remember, this person has worked all day. This person, a little bit less. This person, a little bit less. This person, just a little bit of time. And guess what? The person that worked for the least amount of time got paid a denarius. The person that worked a little bit more still got paid the same amount. And this person got paid the same amount. And this person got paid the same amount. Does that seem fair? Well, one thing we have to remember, Bible times were different than now. So in Bible times, were there televisions? Were there TVs? Were there computers? Was there electricity? Were there lights? Were there boats? They weren't motorboats or power boats, but they had, for fishing and things, more like, you would think of like canoes and things. And if they had to go somewhere, they could sail. Now, sometimes when there's a lot of wind, you can go fast. But usually, do sailboats go as fast as motorboats? So it took a long time to get places. Oh, were there cars? Were there roads? But you would walk, or maybe you would ride a donkey if you had enough money to own a donkey. So news traveled very slowly, and the children learned, but it was just different. Usually wherever you were born, you stayed there. Like Jesus is the man that raised Jesus, Joseph, he was a carpenter. Jesus learned to be a carpenter. You learned to do what your parents did, and you kind of stayed in that area for the most part. And you learned orally, which means you learned by hearing stories. So this parable, while it seems a little unfair to us that they all get paid the same amount, there was a lot more to the story. And so we kind of have to tease it out. We have to try to figure it out. So the vineyard was actually heaven. And for us to go through heaven, we have to believe in God, right? So the owner of the vineyard is God. So when God met, I can't remember who I had working first. When God met the person that worked all day, they agreed to follow him, right? So let's imagine that this person was actually kind of like you or me, that grew up in a family that went to church and learned all about God and how to make good choices and treat other people kindly from a very early age, all their life. They have God in their hearts, they're going to go to heaven. What about about if, like, maybe this person didn't grow up in a house that went to church and didn't learn about God? So maybe when they're in their 20s and got out of college, something like that, they learned about God. So do they still get to go to heaven? Sure. What about maybe this person didn't learn about God or Jesus until a lot later, and like maybe they were really old, like in their 40s and 50s, right? Do they still get to go to the vineyard with the owner and get paid? Yes. And what about someone that doesn't know God at all until they get very, very old? Do they still get to go to heaven? Yes, they do. That's the beautiful thing about God, is He wants all of us and He loves all of us. So when we choose to follow Him, we know that we get to go to heaven. And you don't have to be raised that way. You can do that right at the very end, which is very special. Oh, hang on a sec. Come in. It's okay. People are coming in the door. But the other part of the parable says that the last shall be first. So one thing, I don't know if you can tell my character here, our dog got hold of it. So she's not all nice and tall anymore. She's kind of bendy now. So those people that were working, that got chose last to work, they were probably sick and had a hard time working. So they still are able to go to heaven, even if we've had a hard life. As long as we welcome God into our hearts, we get to go to heaven. And that's what the parable's about. That it's not all about getting paid and the money and how long you work. As long as you've God in your heart, you get to go to heaven. So I hope that helped learn a little bit about the worker in the vineyard. Have a great week. Bye.